Tonight, Whyala's next generation of tradies become apprenticeship ready. And he may be 80, but Broken Hill pilot Laurie Hutton is ready to fly into the record books.
This is Southern Cross News with Alison Drower.
Hello and thanks for your company tonight. Also ahead, your Thursday serving of fish and tips for those keen on casting a line this weekend. But first, Port Lincoln Mayor Bruce Green has been invited to head over to WA to see the latest technology used by drilling companies to protect the environment. Just days after the annual Hands Across the Sands protest, the Mayor wants to see for himself how new practices might be applied for any future drilling projects in the Great Australian Bight.
Gas and oil mining in South Australia is big business, but the search to find untapped resources has the country divided. One of the world's biggest energy players, Chevron, is looking to ease reservations by inviting community leaders to explore its gas site in Western Australia. The Port Lincoln Council has been extended an invitation, with the Mayor keen to explore the region's natural potential.
If we have that resource, I suggest that we need to develop it, but in a responsible way.
But the drilling risks are well documented. In 2010, BP's Deepwater Horizon spilled 800 million litres of oil into the Gulf of Mexico, and many fear a similar disaster in the Gulf could decimate the state's seafood industry.
We have a very viable and substantial fishing, tourism, aquaculture industry here, so we don't want to see that put in jeopardy in any way.
Last weekend's protest called for drilling off the South Australian coast to be banned.
We want the Great Australian Bight protected, which would mean that there's no oil or gas exploration allowed in the Great Australian Bight.
Today, the Hands Across the Sands activists conceded the Mayor's WA trip would serve the community as an exercise of due diligence, but they still prefer cleaner options.
We're hoping that he keeps in mind the risks associated with big oil and also the fact that we have great opportunity for renewables here.
The regulator is expected to make a decision by the end of the year. If approved, Chevron will commence drilling in the Bight by 2018.
If the decision is made that we as a community better understand the impacts.
Jason Kemp, Southern Cross News.
Port Pirie Council has knocked back a bid by developers to build a new wind farm on the Flinders Ranges. The company Neon wanted to establish turbines on the lower ranges near Crystalbrook, but Council says it goes against its protection zone. Nearby residents have been campaigning against the project, and despite a last-minute pitch, Council unanimously decided not to support the development.
There will be obviously correspondence back to not only Neoin, but the Development Assessment Commission, who are looking at the project as well, so we'll be putting a strong case to them to say that we're not supportive.
Whyala's next generation of tradies is looking good thanks to a new partnership. 30 Whyala students now have the chance to learn new skills and find that apprenticeship.
When Whyala's industry cluster approached government last year, it raised concerns there wasn't enough apprentices in the city to meet demand. In a partnership between the state government, the RDA and local business, 30 students are now getting the education to fill critical gaps.
The students are studying in 3 different apprenticeship areas, or trade areas. In the electrical area, the fitting area and the metal fabrication area.
Each student will spend equal time across the trades along with a fortnightly IT session. While not an official apprenticeship, Mr Horgan says it will give them a corridor to apply for one.
It'll make their decisions about which pathway they'd like to pursue beyond this program a lot clearer. Through their experiences.
The local RDA says the concept is a sign there's a positive view about the city's economic future.
There's still, upturn coming in those industries, and we need to position ourselves to be ready. And
Daniel Matthews and Elena Lynch are part of the first group to go through the course. Both say this will give them a head start when they go looking for an industry apprenticeship.
Metal fabrication and all the other areas are very handy to have, you know what I mean, so you can fix things.
That's why it's a good opportunity to have. It will help you get jobs and other skills.
John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
Meantime, it was graduation day for students who've been part of an aged care training program in Port Augusta.
Vanessa is one of 10 students embarking on a committed career in aged care, and she says her passion for this kind of work has always been there.
We can't change the bigger picture, but we can actually be part of it and have a significant impact in people's lives in aged care.
With a shortfall in aged care workers in the city, TAFE SA formed a partnership with the Port Augusta City Council to recruit and train more staff.
It was identified during network meetings that all aged care providers were struggling for staff, and that's where the initiative started.
The workforce program has been fully funded by the Department of State Development and the RDA Far North, giving students the chance to get their credentials without any expensive outlay.
I think it's important for people to be given employment opportunities that aren't based on their ability to pay for their training.
Deputy Mayor Brett Benbow presented the awards to the 10 graduates, 9 of which have already found jobs in the field. And those wanting to work in the industry or take the course are encouraged to attend information sessions for the next course starting in July.
If you are a people's person and you are passionate about supporting people to live the best life that they can live, then we encourage you to come along and learn.
Amelia Simpson, Southern Cross News.
Still to come tonight, the 84-year-old who says that you are never too old to have an adventure. Broken Hill pilot Laurie Hutton set for takeoff into the record books. You're watching Southern Cross News. A chance for women in Port Pirie to get some peace of mind and book in for a free breast screen in coming months. A mobile screening unit will be located in the GP Plus car park, and all women over 40 are encouraged to get themselves checked.
One simple check which could save your life.
There's basically a screening test every 2 years. If we actually catch the women early with signs of breast cancer, they get a very good prognosis.
Women are being invited to stop by the mobile unit to get their breast checked for cancer. The check takes a maximum of 10 minutes. X-rays are taken of your breasts and then sent away and read by 2 independent radiologists.
Really, it is a bit of discomfort, but it's only for a very, very short time. As soon as we've taken a picture, the compression plate is released. So they're not there for very long.
The 2 biggest risk factors for breast cancer is being a female and aged over 50. Therefore, the free scans are available for any women over 40.
Unfortunately, breast cancer does increase with age, and so yes, from 50 onwards, yes, the risk does increases with age. Yeah.
Ms Chan says it's important to get in a routine of getting a checkup every 2 years, and for the comfort of women, the mobile unit visits according to that time frame.
2 years ago, we are in Port Pirie and we screen about 2,300 women, so we're probably expecting around that number, possibly a bit more.
Information on how to book an appointment can be found on our Facebook page. Keziah Sullivan, Southern Cross News.
Port Augusta businesses are being given the chance to tap into an exciting new venture with the Oz Minerals Mining Company. A meeting planned for next week will encourage local businesses to consider coming on board as a partner for a new mine.
A big mining project wanting to share the pie with local business. Oz Minerals is holding an information session in Port Augusta next week for businesses in the region to be a part of the Carrapateena mining project.
And hear about what opportunities there are, how do they get involved, and how do they learn more about what is a competitive tender process, but one that we don't want to be overly complex.
The meeting will detail an overview of the project and how businesses can register.
Mainly looking for anyone that thinks that they have the right structure in their organisation to come in to subcontract as a part of the overall construction packages that would be put out for the Carrapateena build.
Building roads, processing plants and airstrips are just some of the work packages available. Yet representatives from Oz Minerals say that Carrapateena is still in the project phase but wants to encourage local businesses to come out to the night on Tuesday. Amelia Simpson, Southern Cross News.
Well, it's one of the world's most amazing human endeavours, the survival in Antarctica of explorer Sir Ernest Shackleton 100 years ago. And from today, you can get a sense of what Sir Ernest faced by paying a visit to the Whyalla Maritime Museum.
While Antarctica is now a mere plane ride away, 100 years ago, the icy continent was a vast frontier. Wyler's Maritime Museum is hosting a display celebrating one of the most famous expeditions in history, the Trans-Imperial Voyage of Sir Ernest Shackleton.
She's on loan from the Australian National Maritime Museum in Sydney, so I have a really great relationship with them. So it is great to have Shackleton with us.
Leaving from London and Sydney in 1914, the voyage aimed to make the first land crossing of the Antarctic continent. Disaster struck when Shackleton's ship, the Endurance, became wedged in pack ice, forcing them to camp on the uninhabitable Elephant Island. Shackleton famously then undertook a 700-mile 4-week journey to the South Georgia Islands in a lifeboat to seek help.
One of resilience and adventure, and I guess one of those heart-wrenching stories. But
it also features expert commentary from modern-day explorer Tim Jarvis, who undertook the same expedition a decade ago.
He tried to recreate that experience, so it is great to have some of that additional footage and some of that additional stories that go along with that.
The display will be on show at the Wyler Maritime Museum every day from 10 until 4 until June 18. Locals are being encouraged to take a peek at the dying days of the golden age of exploration. John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
He may be in his 80s, but veteran Broken Hill pilot Laurie Hutton is about to take off on a solo adventure he's wanted to do all his life, as Pat Reinke found out.
At the young at heart age of 84, Laurie Hutton and his trusty Cessna 172 aircraft are setting off on a unique expedition.
I wanted to do something that would encourage older people to fly, and then widen that a little bit to be involved in something. And to demonstrate that, I decided I had to do something.
That something is a trip to the 4 extreme points of mainland Australia, spreading his message to the older generations.
All being well, we'll leave tomorrow, and I don't know whether I'm fighting fit, but I'm reasonably fit and ready to go.
Laurie's journey will take him from Broken Hill to Wilson's Promontory, Australia's southernmost point in Victoria. He will then visit Cape Byron on the east coast of New South Wales, before heading to the top of Queensland and landing in Cape York. The final leg is across the country to Steep Point in Western Australia, before returning to Broken Hill.
It'll be about 70 hours in the air, which translates to a lot more by the time you prepare and prepare to fly and pre-flight and all of that.
There are 21 stops along the way, and all up the trip will cover over 13,000 kilometres. Laurie takes off tomorrow and is expected to be back by the end of June.
30 days from tomorrow basically is the plan. Hopefully even a little earlier if weather permitting and so forth.
Patrick Reinke, Southern Cross News.
And everyone here wishing Laurie a safe journey without too much turbulence. It's great stuff. After the break, The Beauty and the Feast. Port Pirie students add some dining to their latest stage musical. Welcome back. You are watching Southern Cross News, and after 7 long years, Port Pirie Council has finally given the green light to the new Port Pirie Sports Precinct in Mary Ellie Street. The total cost of the project was formally adopted at $21.7 million, with tenders to be called very soon. Okay, time to cast that line, see what's biting as we catch up with our favourite fishos for tonight's Fish and Tips, starting in Port Pirie.
Welcome to another week of Round of Golf Fishing Tips from Port Pirie. It's unbelievable at the moment. I've been told about squid from left, right to centre, but the most interesting one I've had this week is at Yatala Harbour. They're just about everywhere over there. They tell me if you walk in the water, they'll drag you under. We're still seeing some King George whiting, but they're just so hard to catch. You do have to work a lot. This warmer snap that we've had over the last couple of days will bring out some of those trumpeters, so don't burley up too much. Large snapper on the runs of the creeks and outside of the deep. So have a good weekend. We'll see you next week.
G'day and welcome to this week's Fishing Tips from Port Augusta, Jewel of the North. Well, perfect conditions to get out there and do a bit of gar fishing on the moonless nights out dabbing. They've been really big. Also the King George whiting are really big at the moment, but that slime's starting to move in, so not getting a real lot, but the ones you are getting are quite big. Some big snapper, around 10 kilos down at the Seabird, and over there at the Seabird you'd suggest that would be at the Tye Reef as well. So that's all we have from the Jewel of the North.
There's been some really good numbers of snappers starting to show up throughout Whyalla. I think they're following the cuttlefish up. So the best areas to target for those have been on marrocks on the big boiler tanks, and the best times to fish that has been before first light and sunrise. There's also been a few fish coming off there late in the afternoon, and also a couple of fish coming from the rip. For the King George whiting, some really good numbers starting to show up. Once again, down towards the Mount Young grounds, they're starting to get a little bit thicker now, and there's some really good numbers of squid down there amongst them as well. For the land-based anglers, there's been some great silver whiting. Best areas to target for the silver whiting have been Cowlitz Landing and a little bit further south down towards Menini.
G'day and welcome to Fishing Tips in Port Lincoln. We'll start locally in the bay. There had been some whiting out in the proper, but a little bit patchy. There has been some nice squid around the bay as well, once again in Proper Bay, but also up along the North Shore. There's been some good flathead in the shallows of our bay, and with these westerly winds, that's been ideal. Moving out of the bay, there's been some snapper on some shoals wide of Port Lincoln, and there's also been a few nice gummy sharks taken out around the shoals and also down the bottom end of the passage as well. Down on the south coast of Port Lincoln, there's been a few small patches of salmon, but nothing big in there yet. We've got some pretty wild weather coming this weekend, but once that settles down, hopefully we're in store for some good fishing. That's all for this week. We'll see you again next week.
Well, it has been a case of Beauty and the Feast for anyone in the audience for the latest stage production from John Perry High School. Keziah Sullivan went along to find out what happens when the drama department meets a group of hospitality students.
From the stage
I am not afraid of no beast.
to the kitchen, the young adults were determined to put forward their best.
I'm excited. I think everyone's excited and nervous at the same time. It's extremely nerve-wracking, but I reckon we'll get through.
Beauty and the Beast was on show while the audience were treated to a 3-course extravaganza.
It's extremely important for tonight so we can get a chance to experience what it's like in real life.
To work as a team to try and communicate with each other and stuff like that.
A lot of hard work went into the performance and new skills were put to the test.
The drama students have been doing lunchtime and after-school rehearsals since last term. The food and hospital kids have been working around the clock getting food prepped.
The pressure was on for the students as every move they made goes back to their overall Year 12 grade.
So there'll be moderators coming up from Adelaide that will be in the crowd watching and marking them as the show goes on.
But the practical experience was beneficial for setting the students up in the future.
A little bit more pressure for the students and the staff, but it's about that authentic audience and that authentic paying customer for them to get that real life experience.
Keziah Sullivan, Southern Cross News.
Stay with us after the break. A check of all your local weekend weather. Well, our last few days of autumn, and it's going to be rather pleasant, just like it was today. Plenty of blue skies with temps reaching 19 and 22 today as that broad high continues to dominate. The satellite is showing clear skies for the next few days before we see a weak trough arriving with a few showers late Saturday night or early Sunday. On the waters tomorrow, moderate northerlies at 15 to 20 knots with seas below a metre but rising in the afternoon on a southerly swell, and sunrise will be at 11 minutes past 7 and sunset at 5:21. Tonight those clear skies will mean a chilly night, nothing below 6 degrees, and then warming up to 22 for Port Augusta, Whyalla and Corn. Broken Hill will make it to 20 degrees tomorrow, and if your Friday takes you to Adelaide, it will be sunny and 21. So to the 4-day outlooks, and those milder conditions will last through until late on Saturday when that week change brings a few showers here and there, but mainly fine for Port Lincoln, Cleve and Woodner on Sunday. Port Augusta might see a little bit of rain, but nothing too heavy on Sunday, and then conditions clearing for a cooler 18 on Monday. Port Pirie's next 4 days will continue to soak up the sunshine, with things turning a little bit cooler on Sunday. Colder for Cleve too by then for a mainly fine 14, and Broken Hill will stay sunny and then say hello to winter on Monday for a top of 17. Well, thanks for switching over to 7:2 tonight, and tomorrow we will be back in our usual slot on Southern Cross at 6:30. Until then, you can find more local news on our Facebook page and also Twitter, as well as our YouTube channel. But for now, that's all from the team at Southern Cross News. Enjoy the rest of your night.